Coming up this week on Ride the Lightning, the Tesla Motors unofficial podcast, Porsche throws its hat in the EV game. Maybe, kinda, sorta. The recently set record for furthest distance traveled on a single charge is shattered. And the Model X second row seat mystery, part of it may finally be solved. To infinity and beyond. Greetings and salutations, friends. Welcome to Ride the Lightning, the Tesla Motors unofficial podcast, episode 8 for September 20th, 2015. Happy birthday to me. I am 35 years old today, officially mid-30s. Early 30s are over, 20s are long gone. I'm feeling good, looking forward to a good day today. I'm actually thrilled to be doing the show today. We're up to episode 8. I am just having a blast doing this. Thank you again all so much for joining me. I want to share a couple of quick stories with you. The first is, I'll tell you what, remember last week's show, I was telling you I needed a ton of repairs on my car, which is a gas-powered car, a 9.5-year-old Infiniti at this point. Well, I went and had them done. I mentioned I found a really, really awesome guy who is way cheaper than the dealer and also just way more attention to detail. He was putting in better parts, for things that needed to be done. Just a fantastic guy. I was really impressed with him. But I'll tell you what, when I got there and we got the car right up on the lift and just started talking to him for a while before I headed off and left him alone to work. I had this genuine realization because, I don't get to see my car or any car up on a lift very often. It's just not part of my daily routine. And I really just looking up at my own car up above me on a lift and just seeing all of the pipes, all of the fluids. We were draining the rear differential, the coolant, the clutch fluid, all the power steering, all this stuff. And I just looked up at it and saw the sort of little bits of rust here and there. I mean, I'm in California, so it's not too bad. But the scratches on the catalytic converters from where it bottomed out or something or what have you. Just looking at all this stuff, there's all these smokes and gases and fluids going through this thing. I really genuinely thought, man, this is dumb. Why are we all still doing this? So again, as I said last week, if you're fortunate enough that you've got a Tesla in your life right now, treasure it. Don't take it for granted. You are so lucky, and the rest of us will hopefully be joining you in a few years once Model 3 hits the road. But another interesting Tesla note before I start the show proper. So I work in San Francisco, and I was driving by, the strangest billboard caught my eye this week. And it's on, if you're in San Francisco, as I know a lot of Tesla owners are in the Bay Area, but if you happen to be in San Francisco and you're on Brannan Street, just past 5th, if you're heading sort of southwest towards the 280 on-ramp, it's between 5th and 6th on Brannan. Take a look. There's a billboard there. Someone actually took out a billboard that says something along the lines, I'm paraphrasing here, buying a Tesla? Save $1,000 by entering my referral code. Visit, and I'm not going to plug the guy's site, but I went there. And by the way, he had an 888 number as well that you could call to get the information if you didn't want to go to the website. So I went there. I went there, and his Tesla username, I'll give his Tesla username because I wanted to ask you guys a favor. His Tesla username for the site, for the referral site, is Nicholas, spelled the traditional way with an H, Nicholas, Nicholas2242. So for those of you who have the access to the leaderboard on the referral program, I think it's anybody with a My Tesla account, I believe. I'm curious if he is on the leaderboard, if this effort of his is working. I want to tip my cap. It is quite the gung-ho effort to try and get himself that free, fully loaded Founder Series Model X. I mean, you got to figure the website's cheap. It literally just refers straight to the design studio, but with his referral code. So that's smart on his part. He doesn't even mess around with a front page of any kind. And I mean, I don't know what a toll-free number costs to get, but I got to figure the billboard space is the one that's probably not that cheap. But I love that. I love the fact, the spirit here. He is willing to invest a bit of money to try and get that free Model X. So Nicholas2242, Nicholas, I wish you luck. And I am very curious if someone could email the show this week or tweet me. You can tweet me at DMC_Ryan or email the show, TeslaPodcast@gmail.com. Or Nicholas, if you're out there, call in or write me. And I would be just very curious to hear your thoughts behind this. So I guess hopefully I'll find out in time for next week's show where Nicholas stands in the quest to get himself that free Model X, which is still up. It's still, as far as I know, I haven't seen anything indicating that it's. I believe it's still up for grabs in North America. Of course, Bjorn Nyland has the European one. So good luck to you, Nicholas, and I appreciate your spirit, your clear burning desire to get yourself that X. All right, come right back. We've got some news to get to. Plenty of interesting stuff this week right after this. First up this week, all of the, sort of business, Wall Streety kind of websites this week were lighting up with this Tesla killer, that Tesla killer, this automaker's coming after Tesla. Well, it was a busy week. The big ones, Audi saying they're going to bring out a Q6, an SUV to compete with Model X in, 3 years or so. But then the big one was Porsche, who at the Frankfurt Auto Show unveiled the Mission E concept sedan. They say it will recharge 80% of its 300-mile battery range in 15 minutes. It does seat 4, not 5, and not 7 with jump seats. 0 to 60 time is offered at 3.5 seconds. So basically the 2015 P85D's sport mode, that's, of course, you'd have to turn insane or ludicrous off to get it down, get it up, I should say, to 3.5 seconds. Now, the interesting thing here, Porsche has said they'll decide whether to actually build this car by the end of the year. And if they build it, it'll hit the road by the end of the decade, maybe 2019. Porsche did offer a very respectful quote saying, "We have great respect for Tesla. They are the only one who have brought an electric vehicle on the market that you have to take seriously." So unlike a few weeks ago when we talked about the CEO of Aston Martin sort of giving a diss to saying that ludicrous mode is stupid, we have Porsche at least showing a bit of respect. And Tesla answered back. Tesla spokeswoman Kobe Brooklyn saying, quote, "We are happy that more companies are deciding to put electric vehicles on the road. And I think that ultimately, Tesla fans they're rooting for their guy. They've got their dog and their horse in the race. And, they want to champion their car and their brand, which is great. But I do think that Elon himself is probably ultimately happy to hear this. He may laugh at one part or another or believe they're not actually going to build it, but he's probably got to be happy that these big automakers, especially the big competitors, Porsche is an extremely beloved, well-respected, veteran auto manufacturer. Elon's got to be happy. I think he is happy that people are starting to take him seriously. And this goes back to, remember my point from episode 1 of the show where I gave my personal theory for the real reason that ludicrous mode was done, especially so soon after insane mode. If you didn't hear the show, if you didn't hear episode 1, it was my opinion, my theory, that ludicrous mode was really all about, Elon had opened up the patents. He had straight up said when they won Car of the Year, we want people to copy us. We hope more people build EVs. And no one has, despite the invitation, despite the open patents, nobody was blinking. Nobody was moving. It was just status quo for everybody. So it is my opinion that ludicrous mode was born out of Elon's decision to say, screw this. Nobody's going to take me up on my available patents that I've opened up, and then I am going to embarrass I'm going to build a car that just embarrasses everyone else, and they will be left with no choice but to come into the market with an EV. And I think now we're starting to see that, because look at the timing of this. I mean, ludicrous mode is an insane mode as well. These cars, Audi and Porsche, Aston Martin, you look when they've all been announced, the last 6 months or so. I know ludicrous is very recent, but I think insane mode is when it started. I think people had to start taking EVs very seriously, because they realized, well, geez, these guys are just going to leave us behind. We are going to be done if we allow Tesla to just continue as they are, just unchecked. So I think ultimately that's the reason why I believe Elon is happy to see this, because I think his plan is working. I think his plan was to embarrass everyone into making EVs, and I think that is working. So competition is good. I hope Porsche builds this car. It's unfortunate that it's only going to seat 4, even though its battery pack is in the floor. So I don't know what's holding up why there's a tunnel in this car and why there's not a 5th seat in the middle. I do hope they build it, but remember, of course, Tesla has, we'll decide by the end of the year whether to build this, and then we'll get it on the road by the end of the decade. I'll be in my Model 3, my performance signature dual motor Model 3 by that point, and God knows where the Model S is going to be by the end of the decade. Probably 400 to 500 mile range at the top end, with a 0 to 60 time, high 2s, maybe even down to the mid 2s by that point. Maybe the Roadster, the Roadster could be by 2020, the next gen Roadster that with maximum plaid mode, which, by the way, I think Elon was serious about. I think some people wrote that off as a joke. I think there's a very good chance you will see a maximum plaid button in the next gen Roadster, which I expect to get to 60 miles an hour in something like 2.3 seconds. But the thing is, with Porsche saying that they might build this, even if they do build it, it's as I've talked about before, Model S will be light years past this by the time Porsche were to get Mission E out. Again, look how much the Model S has advanced in barely 3 years. It's gone from, we covered this on earlier shows, but we're up to, we've got all-wheel drive mode, we've got ludicrous, we've got autopilot. Firmware updates have added a lot, like, the integrating the supercharger routing into the maps. The supercharger network itself has grown exponentially. Porsche doesn't have a network. They claim they're going to recharge this car super fast, but where's the network? Is it going to go into dealers? Well, there aren't any dealers in the middle of nowhere, which is where you need to charge. So I see this as Porsche trying to keep their Panamera and their Cayenne customers from jumping ship to the Model S and Model X respectively. But it's probably too late for that. I mean, if you look around, the Bay Area is a very affluent area. There are a lot of very beautiful cars here. I see Model S's on a daily basis. Tesla has already, by anecdotal accounts, I don't have numbers in front of me, but Tesla has already eaten the lunch of those cars. It's as if they've got both hands on the Cayenne's jacket and got them slammed up against the high school locker. It's like, give me your lunch. I see Model S's every day. I do not see Panameras particularly often. There are a ton of Cayennes, but that's because the Model X isn't out yet. I very much expect here in the Bay Area to see that tide turn over the next 2 to 3 years, where where I would once see Cayennes fairly frequently, those are going to turn into Model X's. But again, we'll see what happens with Porsche. At least they're starting to flirt with EVs on a serious level, so we'll see what happens there. Remember Bjorn Nyland set the world record very recently for furthest distance charged on a single furthest distance traveled on a single charge in an EV. He said that very recently on the show a few weeks ago, 3-4 weeks ago, where we covered that. I predicted, because he did it in a P85D, I predicted that an 85D would break it pretty soon, and indeed that is exactly what has happened. Casey Spencer, let's tip our caps to Casey Spencer. He drove his 85D 550.3 miles, taking 26 hours at a cruise speed of 22 miles an hour. His average speed for the trip was 21 and change. He slightly overinflated his tires to 50 psi. He turned off climate control. He dimmed the screen. He did everything he could. He started a bit downhill, then drove mostly flat, and then on his final stretch, he had a 30-mile-an-hour tailwind. He ended up circling the supercharger at the end of his route a couple of times just to get a couple more miles. He did not stop. Over 26 hours consecutive driving alone. He tried to live stream it for a while, but he ran out of laptop batteries. So 26 hours by himself, no entertainment of any sort. But he had said, I watched his video, he had said, the only thing I'm really worried about is getting pulled over by the police, because he was driving with his hazard lights on because he's doing 22 on, sort of back roads, but nevertheless, sort of interstate kind of roads. And he was, in fact, pulled over once. He wrote it at the end of his video saying that the cop just wanted to know more about the Tesla. He was not issued any citations or found to be doing anything wrong. He also said he was tailed for a while at one point by one police officer, and he theorized that the cop was running his plates because he's driving with his hazard lights on at 22 miles an hour. The guy came up, found the clean record, and moved on. But my goodness, bravo, Casey. You've shattered the record. I think you should get something from Tesla. I hope you'll get some sort of recognition, and not just for using the car to do something awesome, which you've done, but you should at the very least be recognized for your sheer physical human achievement. 26 hours, no bathroom breaks. He said he had a box of granola bars to sustain him. Now, in one of my favorite video games, you guys know I work with video games by day at IGN. Rock Band. The Rock Band series is one of my all-time favorite games. It's coming back in just a few weeks here. Rock Band 4 is coming out for Xbox One and PS4. I'm very excited. But there is an achievement that you can unlock. Just this little, if you're not familiar, it's kind of just this little badge that goes on your gamer profile that you can unlock in Rock Band, called Bladder of Steel, which you get for completing all 57 or so songs in the game without pausing. In other words, you have to play them all in a row, which, in every song you're looking at 3 to 5 minutes a song times 50-something songs. It's crazy. So, Casey Spencer, you, sir, get the Bladder of Steel achievement in real life. My goodness. Tip of the cap. I think this is great what you've done. And this one, I think this record is going to stand for a little while. Now, I may be wrong, because guess what? A 90D could take this down. He did it in an 85D. And again, Tesla's got another car out there, a 90D, which, could theoretically, I wonder if a 90D could get to 600. At one point in his trip, Casey was projecting that maybe he could get to 6, but I think this record's going to hold for a little while, even though theoretically a 90D could do it. I think it's going to hold for a little while, if only because of, again, the physical part of it. Going 26 straight hours. I mean, I suppose, he could have done it. Maybe somebody in a 90D will do it with 2 people. Casey said he chose to do it by himself for just the weight, to have less weight in the car. So he did it by himself. But I think this one could hold for a little while. Bravo, Casey. you've done a good thing here, just showing, look, boy, a Tesla can go pretty darn far, and an electric vehicle rather, can go extremely far. So good for you, sir. Speaking of Bjorn Nyland, whose record was just broken by Casey, Bjorn, as you know, has a free, fully loaded Founders Series Model X coming his way via the Model S referral program that he was the first to get to 10 Model S referrals in Europe. Remember, he also gets $10,000, $1,000 for each of those referrals, and it's possible. I don't know if it capped at 10 or if that's unlimited, but he's got at least 10 grand coming his way for each of those referrals. He is using that money to buy. Now, I actually need the audience's help. I follow Tesla closely, but I've never actually heard anyone say. I don't know how this is supposed to be pronounced. Is it Cademo or Cademo? The CHADEMO, the sort of hybrid abbreviation thing. The charging standard. I'm going to go with Cademo for now until someone corrects me on next week's show. Please either tweet me, call in, help me out. I would appreciate it. But in any case, Bjorn is going to use his referral money that he's getting from Tesla to buy Cademo charging adapters, which are, of course, more prevalent in his neck of the woods. And he is going to distribute them for free to Tesla owners in Norway. So, again, bravo, Bjorn. That is a wonderful human gesture. That is the good spirit. You're giving Tesla owners a good name, and you, sir, have some good karma coming your way. This is the kind of stuff I love to see and this is the kind of thing that I see in the Tesla community. Even though I'm not an owner yet, and in fact, a lot of you listening to the show, a lot of the emails I've been getting so far have started the same way. They're like, hey, Ryan, I'm enjoying the show. I, too, can't afford the Model S. I don't have a Tesla yet. So there are just so many of us, but those of you who are Tesla owners now, I really this is the kind of thing that I see in the community, and I think this is a great community, and that's why I've been so happy to be a part of it, even if I'm on the outside looking in for now. So just beautiful stuff, Bjorn. And this is the kind of thing that's making the Tesla community a great community to be a part of. Now, finally this week, speaking of the Model X, of course, Bjorn is winning himself one. We finally have our first look at what the second row seats do to accommodate storage. This has been a subject to immense speculation ever since the design studio opened for those first signature reservation holders. Nigel M., who is a frequent poster on the Tesla Motors Club forum, has posted new photo renderings that were recently posted to the design studio for those signature holders that show the second row seats tipping forward for maximum cargo volume, but they do not fold down flat, at least not in the signature series, because they've got the full bolstered, fancy second row seats. A lot of folks are very upset about this. There are a lot of people questioning, well, should I keep my signature? There are people that are, that do not, they want that cargo volume, and I don't blame them. I think it's hard to blame folks about being upset about this, because that's, you buy a crossover, you buy an SUV for that maximum cargo capacity. The S already has a ton of it. But that's part of the reason that the X should be special, is that it's going to have just an unbelievable, just an uncanny amount of storage space. So it's going to be interesting to compare the cargo volumes of X and S, which we'll get to do. It's the September 29th reveal event is coming up. The wait will not be much longer, but will the height be the only difference in cargo volume? Because we do know that the X is a bit longer. I believe it's 5 inches, I think is what Elon had said, 5 inches longer and like 3 inches wider, was it? I may not be remembering exactly correct, but I've got to believe that Tesla has thought this through and has a plan for this, and that everything is going to make sense when we see the car in what, 9 days. 9 days from the airing of this episode. But yeah, it is it tips forward, does not fold flat, doesn't fold all the way, it doesn't fold backwards, you know, because I mean, you wouldn't want to put stuff on the nice leather seat anyway. But this controversy of the second row seats, about them being magical, about them being sculpted, but now about, you know, how are they going to fold for storage, or, you know, what are they going to do? So we've got seemingly part of our answer. We'll get the rest of it, hopefully, on September 29th at the Founders Reveal event. So that's it for the news this week. I'll come right back, do a couple plugs, and hit the road for this week. I spoke too soon. I forgot I've got a couple of voice mailbox calls to get to first. A couple of phone calls. I'm going to start with Tesla 8. You're on the air.
Hey, Ryan, this is Tesla 8. I love your show. I wanted to ask you a quick question about battery swapping and why it never got to take off. I know they tried it in Harris Grounds, California for about maybe 3 to 4 months. But right before they ended it, it had a big surge of people using the supercharger right next door on Memorial Day weekend. There's people waiting maybe 5 hours or so, and no one was able to use the battery swapping because no one was able to man it at that time. Give me your thoughts, and love your show. Talk to you later.
Excellent call, sir. Thank you for calling in. I think battery swapping went away in part. I don't know if it's a small part or if it's a larger part, but I definitely think that the titanium battery shield that has completely, utterly, just gotten completely rid of the fire problem, and I'm using air quotes again, the titanium battery shield, I think that's on every new car, and a lot of the other cars got retrofitted. So I think that's actually thrown a wrench into it. When Elon first announced and demoed the battery swap, the battery shield didn't exist yet. That had not come into the picture. So I suspect that the added complication of that shield really just, as I said, threw a wrench into the whole process. And the other part of it is supercharging has gotten faster since that announcement as well. And so, and we've heard that, you know, there could be additional supercharger speed boosts coming. So I think that's the reason that Tesla seems to have backed away from it, is just, you know what, okay, that's the titanium shield is kind of just, they'd have to redesign the whole thing, or at least really tweak it and adapt it, and they're just doubling down on supercharging instead. However, I do believe that one day, some years from now, I think there's a really good chance that that industrial grade battery swap stations will become a reality when Tesla has electric semi-trucks, if they decide to either get in the semi-truck business themselves or just license their battery tech for 18-wheelers. But I think battery swap stations could come back someday in a you know, industrial grade setting for truck drivers heading across the country. So they may not be dead. They're probably, though, they're done as far as consumer cars go. But great call there from Tesla 8. Thank you very much. Next up is Tanner from North Carolina. Go ahead, sir.
Hey, Ryan. We just want to say, first of all, I really love the show. My name is Tanner. I'm from North Carolina. And my question is, I was just wondering what you think a Tesla motorcycle might look like. You know, I figured as they're branching out into many different types of vehicles, the Tesla motorcycle would be pretty much the coolest thing I've ever seen. That's all I want to say. You're doing great work. Thank you.
Great question here, Tanner. I don't think that Tesla will build a motorcycle until they can build a pretty long-range version. Now, the Zero motorcycle exists. It's already out. It can go up to 185 miles, which is awesome. That's great. You know, Elon has put his drawn his line in the sand 200 miles, real world range. That's what what electric vehicles need. I think Tesla is going to get there one day, but you've got to figure they're going to need some gigafactory generated, economy of scale battery chemistry improvements in order to get a tiny motorcycle battery pack to that capability. Obviously, the weight is much, much lower in a motorcycle. But now the other big question, if you're going to think about doing a Tesla motorcycle, is software. I mean, are you going to connect a Tesla motorcycle to the mothership via 4G? If so, you need a nice tiny module for that. We have those in cell phones, so theoretically that's not too big of a problem. But then you got to think, well, do you have a screen? Do you have a user interface? What do you let the rider do? What functions does a motorcycle rider need? Which ones do they want? I think Tesla will get there with motorcycles again, but Tesla's primary mission is to get ICE-powered cars off the road and replace them with EVs. But I think it's inevitable. It'll happen. And just imagine the performance on one of those bad boys. That does it for a couple of great calls this week. If you've got a comment or a question or discussion point to raise, give me a call. Call me up. Leave me your question. The phone number is toll-free. You can dial it anytime, day or night, 1-800-606-0697, and dial invitation number 15469. Please leave me your name so I know what to call you, and also please try to keep it short. So that'll do it for that, and we'll come right back, do some plugs. All right, time to hit the road. I remind you that you can follow me on Twitter at DMC_Ryan. And if you've got something to say that won't fit in 140 characters, you can always email me at teslapodcast@gmail.com. If you're a video game player, check me out at my day job at IGN. I've got an Xbox podcast that I do each and every week called Podcast Unlocked. I'd also kindly ask you to stop by my little side project, my little t-shirt storefront. Nerdstyles.com has 10 right now. We've got some more coming soon. 10 game and geek inspired t-shirts, as well as a coffee mug for you coffee drinkers out there. I also ask you to, if you take a look, subscribe to Dave T's weekly Tesla newsletter, which you can do for free at teslaweekly.com. It's always a nice help in making sure I've hit all the big points for the shows each week. And finally, I have to plug the kind provider of my voice mailbox. If you know someone special with an upcoming birthday, anniversary, graduation, or some other special occasion, you can give them a unique gift of recorded voices from friends and family telling them why they're special. The recordings can be podcasted or put into a keepsake. Visit lifeonrecord.com to learn more. So that's it. Episode 8 is in the books. The September 29th Model X event is coming up very soon. That count on that being a very Model X-centric show. I'm super stoked. I can't wait for that. We've got one more show in the meantime. So until then, I'll see you next week for episode 9. Happy motoring, everybody.